Hey, 8th graders. I know it's been a while since we've seen each other, but this is our first thing that we're going to work on now that you guys are back. We are going to recap 11.3. You can grab a piece of notebook paper and have this out if you'd like, or just jot it down. But really, you guys have seen all this stuff before. I'm just gonna go over it. The first couple problems are just combining like terms, simplifying an expression. These expressions do not have equal signs, remember. So you remember you take the coefficients in front of the number. This is a -3 and a +4. So this gives us a +1p. You can also express this without the p and it means the same thing, or without the 1 and it means the same thing. In order to add terms together, they have to have the same letter raised to the same exponent. So this one would be 3m plus 3m, which would give us 6m. Then I threw in a couple that had a number on the outside of the parentheses. This means that we just need to distribute in to what's inside the parentheses. When it's on the outside, it means multiplication. So 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times a +4a is a +24a, and I just let that positive represent my plus sign. That's where I get that sign from. Number 4, 3 times 1 would be 3. 3 times a +2a would be a +6a. You can't combine these because one is a 3 and one has a letter with it, and so they cannot be combined. So number 5 and 6, they get a little bit more challenging. We have something on the outside of the parentheses. This happens to be a negative. We're going to still do this first. So -3 times a -5n gives us a +15n. -3 times a +2 is a -6. And then this -6n is just going to drop down. Now we have to combine like terms still. So I have a 15n and a -6n. Make sure you include the sign in front of the letter. So it's really 15 minus 6, which gives us a 9n minus 6. Okay, the next problem, number 6. We have a -3, and I know some of you are like, it's not negative, it's a -3. It is, but you have to distribute that negative to both items inside here. So I'm going to do this first. -3 times a -5n gives me a +15n. -3 times a +2 gives me a -6. Now I'm going to drop down this -7n. Because this is a +15 with a negative times a negative, I'm going to write a plus there. -7 plus 15, you can combine these two terms, gives us an 8n minus 6 for our final answer. Okay, so the last problems, these are all solving the equations. They have equal signs, but as we progress, there's going to be more simplifying in the equation. So the first one, remember I like to draw your line, locate the variable. Who is furthest away, -3 or +4? Well, the 4 is on the bottom, and so that's who we're going to move first. It's being divided, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. This causes us to cancel. You have -3 plus v equals -1 times 4 is a -4. Then my next step is to add the 3 to the other side. We get v equals a -4 plus 3 is a -1. And that's your answer. Number 8. Again, you can draw your line, locate your variable. Who can you move first, the 2 or the -2? Well, you want to move the 2 that's furthest away, so we're going to add the 2 first. So -8 plus 2 is a -6 equals 2k. Then to get the k alone, we divide by 2. Opposite operation. -3 equals k. Okay. Your next one I still like to draw the line. If there's something you can do on one side of the equation, we don't want to add 2m to 8 because this is actually simplifying on this side. So it's 8m minus 2m, which gives us 6m. And then how would you get m by itself? You divide both sides by 6. So 4 equals m. Okay, when we go to number 10, what can we combine first? So simplify before you start moving. We have a 1v and a negative 6v. So I'm just going to jot down this 4. I know if a 1v minus 6v gives me a negative 5v. Now I'm going to proceed with getting the variable by itself. So now I'm going to subtract the 4 because I want it to go to the other side. Bring down my negative 5v equals negative 5. Divide by a negative 5. My v equals positive 1. Number 11. This one's a little trickier because I have to distribute this into my expression before I can do anything. I check this side of the equation. There's nothing I can simplify. I'm going to draw my line. And I'm going to take negative 5 times 1 gives me a negative 5. Negative 5 times a negative 2k is a positive 10k. And then I just write that 7k down. So still on the right side of my equal sign, I can combine my 10k and my 7k to get 17k. Now this is what we started to practice right at the end here, where we have variables on both sides. Since we have variables and numbers on both sides, we can play weakest link. So who's weaker, negative 2k or positive 17k? The negative 2k is, so that's what I'm going to add to the other side. I do this to try to avoid negatives. This gives me a negative 24 equals negative 5 plus 19k. Still trying to get this k by itself, so I'm going to add 5 to the other side. So this gives me negative 24 plus 5. This is going to give me a negative 19 equals 19k. Divided by 19, divided by 19, negative 1 equals k. Okay. 12 is different because the negative, we pretend like there's a negative 1 here, and this has to be distributed in. I know that looks different. Negative 2x, negative 1 times positive 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 times a negative 7x is a positive 7x. So basically you just change the sign on those items. Still trying to simplify here. So I have a negative 2x, positive 7x, gives me 5x minus 1. Weakest link, 5x or 7x. The 5x is weaker, so I'm going to move that one to the other side. You only have to do the opposite operation if you are trying to move it to the opposite side of the problem. So we're still trying to get x by itself, so minus 15 on both sides. So this gives us negative 16 equals 2x. Divide both sides by 2. Negative 8 equals x. And anytime you want to check your problem, you just put it back into your equation. Okay, a couple more problems here. Number 13, we have an 8 on the outside that we need to distribute into our problem. 8 times 2p is 16p. 8 times 2 is 16. Nothing on either side of that problem to simplify first, so I'm just going to start by moving my variables. Who's weaker, 16p or 8p? 8p. 8p plus 16 equals 32. Trying to get the p alone now, so I am going to subtract 16. 8p equals 16. Last step is to divide both sides, by an 8. P equals 2. And our last problem here, again, we want to distribute this first because you can't do what's inside the parentheses. So 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 2 is 16. Weakest link, negative 7v or positive 16v. That 7v is going to get added to the other side. 17 equals 40 plus 16 and 7. That's going to give us 23v. Then I'm going to minus the 40 from both sides. This gives us a negative 23. And then our last step is to divide by the positive 23. And I get negative 1 equals v. So anytime you're solving an equation, we can check it by putting the value of the variable back into the original problem, and that will get you your answer. So I hope this was a good review. This is going to help you with your partner worksheet. I'm going to post a picture of this on my page so you guys can see this along with having the video. So hope this is helpful, and we will talk to you soon.